We're getting a Canada-U.S. showdown at the World Cup of Basketball, but probably not the game we were hoping for, because it's not going to be for gold. It is going to be for bronze. The Americans, they were stunned by Germany earlier today. They lose by 2. Canada, well, Canada was handled pretty easily by Serbia. So Serbia and Germany go for gold on Sunday. Canada and the Americans go for the bronze medal. But it's been a very, very good tournament for the Canadian men's basketball team, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it tonight here on Sports Talk with Jock. It's a real pleasure to be joined by a guy who not only loves the game of basketball, but covers the game of basketball, Josh Arbuthnot. He is the play-by-play broadcaster for the UFC Dinos, the St. Trojans, and Alberta basketball. Josh, really appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
What happened to Canada today?
Well, they got FIBA to put it from EBL's Jason Tomes. The best way is they got caught in transition a lot, and they got in foul trouble really early. You look at the second half, they actually won the second half. They lose that first half. They lost in transition. Serbia got out, knocked down a lot of threes. Got a lot of rebounds, got in the paint a lot. They doubled the amount of points in the paint to Canada. They shot 65% from the field, and that foul trouble just killed Canada. Dylan Brooks, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kelly Olynyk all got in foul trouble with 3 fouls early, and Canada really had a hard time in that second half, mounting their way back after that.
You know, Josh, the result probably shouldn't surprise us, because if you look at the world rankings, Serbia was ahead of Canada. Yeah. But, you know, Serbia was missing their best player. And, you know, a lot of the books basically had Canada winning this game. They a 5.5 favorite last time I saw. So was this a disappointing loss, or where would you put this in the grand scheme of things? You've watched this team during the whole tournament.
Yeah, I did. Look, I mean, obviously, like you said at the top there, Jock, we wanted to have Canada versus USA in the gold medal game. That's what we all wanted here in Canada. I think in North America, everyone was talking about that. But for this Canada team, they clinched a berth to Paris in the Olympics for the first time in 20 years. The heightened love for basketball has been at a height that we haven't seen probably since the Raptors championship, and I'm seeing it around the U15 and U17 circuit, but you're seeing a height and excitement in September for basketball like you've never seen. People are excited for the Olympics, so it is a win for the Olympics. And let's not forget, this team can still medal on Sunday and against their rivals in the Americans. So it's a success on that side. Obviously, you always want to go for gold, but their number one goal coming to this was to get to the Olympics. Number 2 was to get gold. So they got half of what they wanted, and hopefully going into the Olympics in Paris, they got some other really good players coming. You mentioned Serbia does too, with Nikolai Jokic, probably the best player in the world. We know the Americans do, but Canada will be able to reload going into Paris themselves.
Yeah, and yet in saying that, Canada had a pretty competitive team here. I think they had 7 players from the NBA on that team, did they not?
They did, yeah. SGA being one of them. He went head-to-head with Luka Doncic in that Slovenia game and outdueled him. There's going to be an argument for him to potentially be the MVP still of the tournament. You know, Serbia and Germany are going to be in the final, but there'll be some argument for SGA to still be the MVP of this entire tournament the way that he was playing.
You know, it's great for Canadian basketball, and as you say, Josh, it's amazing, you know, and give the Raptors credit, because I think they get credit for growing the sport in this country, but it's not just the Raptors, is it? You know, this sport really is taking off in this country.
It really is. You're seeing it even here in the province of Alberta. Shout out to Eddie Richardson and the Edge. They're doing fantastic things, growing the game there, and the women's and the men's team. We just had a top 40 recruit from Alberta with Delaney Gibb going to BYU. That's huge, as we're starting to grow the game in Alberta. We still have never had an NBA player from Alberta, but we're growing the game on all levels with places like the Edge, having tremendous coaches in youth sports and in Canada West and CCAA. So we're growing the game all over, and then getting to see players. A lot of these players grew up and they watched Steve Nash play. They watched Vince Carter play for the Raptors, and now they're trying to imitate it. And now some of those Canadians are going to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Dylan Brooks, or even players who didn't make it, like Ben Mathurin from the Pacers or Andrew Wiggins from the Golden State Warriors, who won a championship 2 years ago. They're going to want to look up to him. So the game is starting to grow a lot. Art is imitating life, and for the women too, they're getting to see a player like Kia Nurse in Seattle and want to be her.
Where did your own passion come for the game, Josh? Because as I mentioned off the top, you're the play-by-play guy for the Dinos, the Trojans, Alberta basketball. You obviously have developed a passion for this sport.
Yeah, I come from a big basketball family that loves the game. I grew up as a Laker fan, getting to see Magic Johnson and everything he got to do, and then obviously fell in love with Kobe and Shaq and all those great players for the Lakers franchise. And there's just something so simplistic about the game. It's so easy to pick up and play. And then just getting now to get to do it on the broadcast side. I've had the privilege of coaching the game, officiating the game, playing the game, and now I'm in the broadcast booth, which is fantastic because we're getting revved up to do another season here for the Dinos. I just actually came from an exhibition game of the Dinos before this radio hit, getting to see our fantastic women's team take on Lakeland this evening. They're looking fantastic, so can't wait for that to get started here. And then my own sister played for the U of A Pandas and played 5 years there. Fantastic.
It's interesting. I've always said there's nothing like going to a game at the Jack because it's always fun. But now we got the Calgary Surge as well, and that's good for the city.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And if anyone didn't get a chance to go to the Surge game, it was absolutely electrifying. And that really made me emotional to see the city here, and Jason Ribeiro and everyone from the top to the bottom has done a good job getting to the community and really echoing how important it is for the growth of basketball in this city. They did a great job, and it was echoed in all the games that we've seen. And then same with the Dinos, the Trojans, Ambrose, and St. Mary's doing the same thing here as well.
So we go back to the World Cup for a second, and it is the Americans against Canada on Sunday. You got to get up bright and early. I know you'll be up watching it because you've watched every single game. Is more riding on this game for Canada? The Americans have been there, done that, got the T-shirts. They've had some of the greatest teams in basketball history. What would it mean for Canada to win this game and a bronze medal?
It's kind of that big brother, little brother thing, right? You want to knock down big brother. The Americans will have their attitude that they always have if they lose. They're like, we didn't have LeBron and Kevin Durant and Curry there. It didn't count. You're already kind of seeing that with the loss to Germany. But for Canada and the growth they've had over this game for the past 20 years, what Rowan Barrett, R.J. Barrett's father, who had a fantastic game for Canada today, the former Duke player, what they've done in growing this game, that's the exclamation point they want to set. Yes, they didn't get that gold medal, but to leave with a bronze medal is going to set an example for everyone growing this game in Canada and what they can do in Paris.
Josh, thanks so much for joining us tonight and talking a little basketball. I think it has been a great story for the city, for the country, and obviously for Canadian basketball.
Absolutely. Absolute privilege. Have a great night.
Yeah, you as well. Have a great weekend. That is Josh Arbuthnot. He is play-by-play broadcaster for the Dinos, Trojans, Alberta basketball. As he said, he's got a great background in the sport of basketball, and I didn't want to neglect that story because it was big when they beat when they clinched the gold medal and beating Spain. That was unbelievable. And then they beat Slovenia. That was fantastic. Unfortunately, they ran into a very tough